Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Candace, you can hear me?
I see you up there.
See me? Okay, thanks.
Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, November 5, 2020, in room 254. Estimates will begin approximately 3 p.m. with Mr. Nesbitt in the chair. Thank you. Have a great day.
Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of the estimates of agriculture and resource development. As previously agreed, questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The member for Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before my first question, I would request the Honorable Minister to not play a dodge game as he did in the question period today, but to answer the questions that I'm asking on behalf of our respectable producers who feed us. My first question is, Manitoba beef producers and Keystone Ag producers have approached Honorable Minister of Agriculture with some requests to improve Western Livestock Price Insurance Program, Agri Stability, and Set Aside Program for them. What was Minister's response to these requests, and why the agricultural critic was not kept in a loop for that communication? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, I'm first just trying the audio here. Does the audio come through all right?
Yes, it's just fine. The
Okay.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly on Western Livestock Producer Insurance Premium, or WLPIP as we call it, this is a good insurance tool for beef producers. It was a tool that they could use. Then when COVID hit in beginning of March, the premiums skyrocketed. And for those who hadn't bought in before, the premium became very expensive in order to buy in. We've, between myself, the government of Saskatchewan, government of Alberta, and in fact, we had some support out of provinces like New Brunswick because they're interested in the Western Livestock Price Insurance Program. We lobbied the federal government very hard to come up with a program where we could somewhat subsidize those increased premiums to make them affordable. Now, the federal government said no. They kept using the excuse that it's a regional program, it's not a national program. And so, you know, the opportunity was missed there. The premiums are, again, the premiums are being posted now. You go on MASC's website and you can find the premiums, and it's a decision on the producer side, but we would like to see this built into the next 5-year plan, Canadian Agricultural Partnership Plan, which is covered under all these things like agri-stability and agri-insurance. So we would like to see change the name so it's not the Western Livestock, call it the National Livestock. We don't care what you call it. Let's get it in as a national program. We see that there will be interest from all provinces, producers, if this becomes an insurance program. And again, it's something that producers can decide where they're comfortable, not only with the premiums, but the support levels that the premiums will give them, and it becomes a very useful tool. Much like agri insurance, like crop insurance, and the changes we're making to forage insurance to make it work much better for producers. This is the kind of support that really builds, because these types of programs become insurable, they become bankable, they become predictable, so that you can go to your financial institution and say, I have bought in premiums at this price and to give me this support level, which is what agri insurance does right now, which forage insurance can do when you use it, and where we'd like to see the Western Livestock Insurance, whatever its new name is, but we're going to lobby very hard to build that in the new program. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The member for Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Minister, for that answer. A follow-up question that I want to ask again is, would the Minister consider keeping Ag Critic in loop for future communications with ag organizations and producers? And my another question is, talking about insurance, this government has cut funding to MASC, and to run or implement insurance programs, we need insurance agents and proper staffing to serve our producers. Can the Minister reflect on, for example, how many insurance agents we have right now, for example, just in Interlake? Do we have enough? If not, how many do we have? And why, in this situation, this government is putting budget cuts on MASC?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, let's clear up the misconceptions right off the bat. There is no budget cuts in MASC, and for the member to put that out there is not only false, but it's a disservice to the farm community too, because there has not been any budget cuts into MASC. In fact, in the last number of years, MASC has spent $10 million in enhancing the technology. I think it's a disservice to the member to treat farmers like backwoods people. They're very technical savvy right now, and it's when COVID came, offices were closed for the safety of the employees, but that did not stop the service, because when you contact an agent, the MASC agent, either by email or by telephone, whatever, the lines were forward. Everybody was still working. They were working from home, and the responsibility between the agents is still there. You don't have to have one person in one office for everybody. You can move this around and we make sure that when somebody comes, it's all about customer service, and they're doing this. And you know, so much of this MASC work, especially when I talk about crop insurance, can be done online now. You can do your seeding report, your fall harvest report online, and it can be done that way. A lot of our field agents were encountering some hesitancy from the farm community during COVID. They didn't want someone coming on their yard. They wanted to maintain that physical distancing. And so online and by phone works for these kinds of reports. And that's where MASC will continue to modernize in here. And I really take offense when the member tries to think that everything has to be done like it was done 20 years ago. Farmers are very technical savvy right now, and for the member to insinuate that they're not is a disservice to the farm community.
The member for Burrows.
I know that the insurance agents, they are stressed, overworked, burdened, because they are transitioning from that traditional system to the new system. As of now, they have to handle both systems at the same time. And on top of that, they have to have 35 unpaid days off. That puts additional burden on them and their families. So why the government is still recruiting summer students if they say that there's no need for this manpower and all the work is being done using technology?
The Honourable Minister.
Apparently math is not the member's strong suit. Where does he come up with 35 days? It's 5 days, the same as every other government employee across the province. And, you know, I realize staff is stressed. Who is not stressed these days? Whether you're an MASC employee or whether you're a homemaker or whether you're working in a store, everyone is stressed these days. And we have looked after our employees as just like everybody else in terms of mental health help, and it's no different for MASC staff than anybody else. Now, in terms of summer students, we actually ended up not hiring any summer students this year because we couldn't be out in the field and we couldn't be doing, because that would be contact with people. And that's a really unfortunate situation because many of our employees started out, our current employees of MASC started out as summer students. They learned what was happening in MASC. They got an education. They came back to work for MASC. For the member to insinuate that we shouldn't be hiring summer students is totally wrong. It's totally short-sighted, and we need to be hiring these summer students, whether it's in MASC or whether it's in government or wherever. This is the future of if you don't look forward, especially these days when we know that there are our aging population, there's lots of retirements. We need to make sure we've got those young people out there to be able to take over. We need to be training them and showing them the opportunities in there. So it is, again, it's just unfortunate when the member puts out false facts or false information. It's not a fact, it's a false information. And it really does a disservice at any time. And in times like COVID, it certainly doesn't help the population of Manitoba. And you know, the member asks, he wants to be included in briefings. Well, you could start by not spreading misinformation, and then maybe we can possibly look at something down the road. But if whatever you're going to hear and then you're going to turn around and twist it, there is a big trust issue right here, right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The member for Burroughs.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions further.
Thank you. Hearing no further questions, we will now proceed to the consideration of the resolutions. At this point, we will allow virtual members to unmute their mics so they can respond to the question. I will now call Resolution 3.2. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $13,457,000 for agriculture and resource development, policy and transformation for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.3, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $136,113,000 for agriculture and resource development, risk management, credit, and income support programs for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass. Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.4, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $16,752,000 for agriculture and resource development, stewardship, and assurance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.5, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $16,684,000 for agriculture and resource development, production and economic development for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.6, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $36,045,000 for agriculture and resource development, water stewardship, and biodiversity for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.7, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $12,891,000 for agriculture and resource development for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.8, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $950,000 for agriculture and resource development, capital assets for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 3.9, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $213,350,000 for agriculture and resource development, loans and guarantees programs for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for these estimates is item 1 brackets A, the minister's salary, contained in resolution 3.1. The floor is now open for questions.
Question.
Resolution 3.1, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $6,270,000 for agriculture and resource development, administration and finance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates of the Department of Agriculture and Resource Development. The next set of estimates to be considered by this section of the Committee of Supply is for the Department of Municipal Relations. I would now ask that the Honorable Minister and critic from the official opposition turn on their video to indicate that they're ready to proceed, if applicable. The member for Concordia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just, in the interest of time, I realize that we are very short on estimates time, and you know, as frustrating as that is, we are still hoping to get to a few more departments here. Simply asking that maybe we would forego our opening statements so that we could have the opportunity to get straight to questions. I only have a few, and then we can move straight to the next department here in this room. So I ask leave for that to happen, Mr. Chair.
The member for Concordia has asked for leave. Is leave granted?
Yes.
Leave has been granted.
I still have 5 minutes.
We'll now waive opening statements. Under Manitoba practice, debate on the minister's salary is the last item considered for a department in the Committee of Supply. Accordingly, we shall now defer consideration of line item 13.1 brackets A contained in resolution 13.1. Does the committee wish to proceed through the estimates of this department chronologically or have a global discussion? The member for Concordia.
Global.
Thank you. It is agreed upon that the questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner, with all resolutions to be passed once questioning has concluded. The floor is now open for questions. The member for Concordia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Would like to ask a question about the Investing in Canada Infrastructure program. I know that AMM has prioritized their selections very early in the year. Very interested in getting some of that those projects moving forward. Just asking if Manitoba has selected their projects for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure programs, and if the minister could give us a quick update on that.
The member for Concordia.
While the minister is looking that up, I just wanted to thank her for taking the step to forego the opening statements. I'm sure she has a very lot to say and would have liked to have done that, so I appreciate her taking the step to move straight to questions. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Municipal Relations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member for his question. And it is a pleasure to be here today to take his questions. I have been in this role for just over a year now, and I do believe this is the first question the member has posed to me in 12 months. So I'm very pleased to have a collaborative discussion with the member about municipal funding for the province of Manitoba, and look forward to this collaborative dialogue. In the interest of time, I did forego my opening statement, but I would be very remiss if I did not take a moment to thank all of my staff in the department, the people who show up for work every day throughout this pandemic, and have worked diligently to continue to support our member municipalities. I want to thank the leadership of my deputy, Bruce Gray, who has been an outstanding leader in ensuring that our department runs smoothly and that people are able to get the resources and the support that they need while staying safe, as well as providing municipalities what they need in terms of resources and being a steadfast resource for municipalities to call upon. We have spent countless hours working, ensuring that we're getting the right information out to all of our municipalities throughout the province, and working with them all on a coordinated effort to ensure that whether it be a response to the pandemic or response to moving into a different, moving the pandemic response system up a level, and what does that mean for the municipalities and how we can best support them, has been absolutely critical. And of course, at the center of that has been my deputy, Bruce Gray. And so I do want to thank him and everyone else who works in municipal relations. Earlier in the spring, we knew our government had decided that shovels in the ground and getting people to work and investing in infrastructure would be one of the best ways to ensure a recovery of our economy, as well as creating jobs. And so what we did is we supersized, if you will, the Building Sustainable Communities Fund. And in a world where it takes sometimes months to get a program together and to open up an intake and to determine priority projects, my department was working rapidly when we said we were supersizing this fund and needing to select up to $10 million worth of projects, and then ensuring that the projects could proceed, and then flowing that money out the door. It was a remarkable feat, and yet everyone rose to the challenge to ensure that we got this money out the door. And I know that almost every member in this room, whether it be the member for Concordia or the member for Riding Mountain or in my own constituency of Riel, benefited from those projects. I was really pleased to go and announce projects, an accessible playground in the constituency of St. Vital with that member, a new playground in the constituency of Transcona with that member, and really working and across the entire province to ensure that these projects could proceed, that brought so much excitement to many communities, and it was a real honor to do that. And that's just one example of where my department responded rapidly. The other one was when we doubled the amount of money for the Green Team funding this year. That was an exciting opportunity where we had more youth employed through many of our programs, not least of all the Green Team. And that was an overwhelming task for my department, and I want to thank them for diligently getting the applications ready and assessing each applicant and flowing that money with the least amount of strings attached so that they could have the resources to hire the people that they need. Now, the Investing in Canada infrastructure program, as the member knows, our government did commit $500 million under a Manitoba Restart program as part of an economic stimulus package, which included $230 million for municipalities as part of Manitoba's contribution to the Investing in Canada infrastructure program. And our government has always believed that there is no greater environmental problem in this province than the cleanup of Lake Winnipeg. And to that end, we're investing $268 million towards Phase 1, Phase 2 of the North End Water Pollution Control Centre. I would like to highlight that it was in 2003 that the Clean Environment Commissioner told the NDP government to act on this priority project.
The minister's time has expired. The member for Concordia.
Okay, so, I mean, we're looking for a bit more clarification there. Maybe the minister could try to focus that down. My last question, I guess, Mr. Chair, thank you, is with regards to a directive that was issued or a letter that was sent April 15th from this minister to municipalities. The beginning early days of the pandemic, suggesting strongly to those municipalities that they look to the province, to examples being set by the province, and begin to trim their budgets. And in this case, suggest that perhaps layoffs could be on the table. I'm just wondering if the minister could give us some insight into how many municipalities took her up on that, and if they tracked the number of people that were laid off, how many job reductions were initiated due to the urging or the suggestion of the minister.
The Honourable Minister.
As I was saying in my previous answer, the North End Water Pollution Control Center, Phase 1 and Phase 2 has been a priority for our government. This is also this was a priority identified by the Clean Environment Commissioner in 2003. At that time, the project, the total value of that project would have been significantly less than the $1.6 billion, $1.7 billion that we're looking at today, and yet the NDP did nothing on this initiative that would have really put Lake Winnipeg in a completely different situation. The cost of ignoring that problem, not only did we see the North End Water Pollution Control Center project costs escalate to the $1.7 billion figure that we're looking at today, it also saw the depletion of the health of Lake Winnipeg in such a catastrophic way that all the NDP members, when they go, and I know the member that sits across from me, he has a cottage out there, and he's greatly concerned about the health of Lake Winnipeg, as is everybody in my constituency and all the members' constituencies. The health of that lake is something that we're all concerned about, and yet the NDP inaction on Lake Winnipeg caused it to be named the most endangered lake in the world in 2013 by international experts. That is the NDP record on the North End, on Lake Winnipeg. And our government does not think that that is acceptable. And that is why we've prioritized. We've worked very collaboratively through our Investing in Canada program with our federal counterparts and with our municipal counterparts, and coming to an agreement that this is a priority that can no longer be ignored. Now, I'll quote my colleague and my friend, City Councillor Brian Mays, who a few years ago was saying in the paper when he was asked why didn't the NDP prioritize this project, he said, I don't know. I guess water and sewer is not a sexy initiative, and it was never prioritized before. Well, we're not interested whether or not it's a sexy issue or not. If water and sewer is going to lead to the cleanup of Lake Winnipeg, then our government is going to act on that. And we're very pleased to be working with our counterparts on the cleanup of Lake Winnipeg, starting with the North End Water Pollution Control Center investments. When it comes to funding for municipalities, at the outset of the pandemic, I'd reached out to all municipal leaders and I said, I can assure you that our budgets will remain intact. When I became the Minister of Municipal Relations, I had a collaborative conversation with the mayor, and he asked if I could provide for him certainty for his budgets as he was moving into a 4-year budgeting cycle, if I could provide him that certainty that he would know what kind of operating and infrastructure funding that he would receive. And for the first time, the City of Winnipeg got that certainty, as did all other municipalities throughout the province, that they would have their operating baskets and their infrastructure baskets maintained for the mandate of this government. And after we went into a pandemic, all the municipal leaders, including the City of Winnipeg, had asked me, does that commitment hold? And our response was absolutely. In fact, not only does it hold, I will flow 75% of the operating dollars to you immediately so that it can help with your cash flow problems. And we were very pleased that in spring, at the early onset of this pandemic, we flowed that money out the door so that municipalities wouldn't have the cash flow problems. And then just recently, we flowed the other 25% of all their operating funding commitments to them, regardless of the fact that many of our municipalities, thanks to our ongoing stable funding that we've provided them, and the federal restart money that we recently flowed to them, will be in a surplus position. And
1 minute remaining.
And despite that, we've said and despite the fact that our provincial budgets have taken a significant impact due to the pandemic, we are still committed to working with our municipal leaders, flowing that money. In addition, we've also provided an extra $50 million in water services project throughout this pandemic. This is helping taking places off boil water advisories like the PAW. They have not been able to expand and do proper land use planning because they do not have the ability with their lagoon. That lagoon has been overflowing at capacity since 2012, and it was ignored by the NDP government. Our government, through this $50 million enhanced investment to the Water Services Board, is helping expand the PAW Lagoon and many other projects throughout the province of Manitoba.
Hearing no further questions, we will now proceed to consideration of the resolutions. Order. At this point, we will allow virtual members to unmute their mics so they can respond to the question. Resolution 13.2, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $46,993,000 for municipal relations, community planning, and development for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 13.3, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $11,524,000 for municipal relations, municipal capacity and assessment for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 13.4, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $313,951,000 for municipal relations, financial assistance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 13.5, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $1,725,000 for municipal relations, capital assets for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 13.6, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $67,263,000 for municipal relations, loans and guarantees programs for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for these estimates is item 1 brackets A, the minister's salary, contained in resolution 13.1. The floor is now open for questions. The member for Concordia.
No, sorry, I'm calling for the question. I don't have questions.
Resolution 13.1, resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty a sum not exceeding $6,443,000 for municipal relations, administration, and finance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2021. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates of the Department of Municipal Relations. The next set of estimates to be considered by this section of the Committee of Supply is the Department of Conservation and Climate. The member for Concordia on a point of order.
I'd like to simply ask leave once again, as the Minister of Municipal Affairs was so gracious to do, that the Minister of Conservation simply forego her opening statement, as well as the critics' opening statement, so we can move straight to questions. I believe we only have about 5 minutes left.
I would like to indicate to the member for Concordia that that is not a point of order, but he is asking for leave. Is there leave to forego the opening statement by the Honourable Minister?
No.
Leave has been denied. Does the Honourable Minister have an opening statement?
I do.
The Honourable Minister for Conservation and Climate.
I am very pleased to participate today as we review the 2020-2021 estimates of the Department of Conservation and Climate. At this time, I would like to introduce the staff that are here with me today. including Jan Forster, Deputy Minister of Conservation and Climate, Matt Weeb, our ADM Finance and Shared Services, Cordella Friesen, our ADM Environmental Stewardship, Neil Cunningham, Acting ADM Climate and Green Plan Implementation Office, Blair McTavish, ADM for Parks and Resource Protection. The Department of Conservation and Climate has been diligently working to protect our environment and promote sustainable development. Our dedicated staff who work as conservation officers throughout Manitoba have been working incredibly hard protecting and conserving our wildlife and addressing illegal hunting practices. Since October 10th, our conservation officers, with support from aerial patrol and canine support, have charged or given appearance notices to 22 individuals for serious wildlife offenses. They have been given warnings to 13 individuals for night hunting or for hunting in moose closures. Our conservation officers have charged 4 individuals for possessing illegally taken wildlife. They have seized 6 individuals as well as 8 firearms, and they have issued restitution orders totaling $6,500. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to these hardworking civil servants who are working around the clock. Our staff are being recognized as leaders in their fields. The National Association for Interpretation has recently awarded 2 of our staff with important accolades. This year, Lindsay Mitten, the senior park interpreter at Birds Hill Park, was given the award of Master Frontline Interpreter for her exceptional work. She builds an appreciation for the park's natural, cultural, and historic resources, personally connecting with over 10,000 visitors every year. During COVID-19, Lindsay is now actively pursuing ways to connect virtually with students and all Manitobans to promote the values of Birds Hill and the provincial park system. Rob Nedetiafko, our Director of Parks, has also been recognized with the award for excellence in interpretive support. Rob champions the work of our park interpreters, actively promotes our programs, and sees how important this work is in developing experiences in our provincial parks and promoting visitor appreciation and care of our provincial natural, cultural, and historical resources. Our provincial parks remain treasures for Manitoba, and I am proud that we are moving forward with significant investments in parks in order to have them remain cherished, sustained provincial public assets. We are focused on park modernization to improve the experience for all park visitors. This year, with COVID-19 affecting all of our lives, it was more clear than ever before that our citizens need our provincial parks as a place for experiencing nature, health, and wellness, as well as family memories. We are focused on transparency as we explore ways to modernize our parks to enhance the experience and make our parks even greater for all to enjoy. We have always and